In the quiet village of Oguachukwu, there lived a woman named Adugo. She was as poor as a church rat. Her hut was barely a shelter. Its roof leaked whenever it rained, and the cold winds blew freely through the cracks in her walls. Adugo had no bed. She slept on the hard floor every night. Every day was a struggle. To survive, she fetched water, washed clothes, and worked on farms. But no matter how hard she toiled, her hands always came back empty. Her neighbors whispered behind her back, calling her cursed. Bad luck follows her like a shadow, they said. But Adugo was not one to give up hope easily. She prayed every night, longing for a miracle. One fateful afternoon, she packed her dirty clothes and headed to the village river. Adugo was so poor that she did not have money to buy soap. She hid her clothes on the stone by the river to remove its dirt. Suddenly, by the sparkling river where she knelt washing her clothes, she heard the sound of footsteps. Adugo, shocked, looked back out of fear, and to her surprise, a mysterious woman appeared. She was dressed in clothes so fine they looked fit for a queen. Her name is Ezinne. Her smile was sharp, and her words were as smooth as honey. "I know your struggles, Adugo," Ezinne said. "To get you out of your hardship, I have a business proposal for you. Collect old brass from the villagers, as many as you can. For each sack you bring me, I will pay you handsomely." Adugo was stunned. "Brass?" she asked, dazzled. "Don't ask questions," Ezinne replied, her voice firm. "Just do as I say, and your life will change forever." With that, Ezinne handed Adugo a bundle of crimson notes and disappeared as mysteriously as she had come. Adugo, though hesitant, decided to take the offer. After all, it was the first glimmer of hope she had seen in years. It looks as if her prayers had been answered. Adugo, in trying to devise a plan to avoid suspicion as regards her newfound trade, went to the market and bought colorful bowls and basins. Knocking on doors, she offered to trade these items for old clothes, shoes, and brass. The villagers, eager to get rid of their worn-out belongings, quickly handed them over to Adugo for an exchange of her colorful bowls and basins. Day by day, Adugo's sacks grew heavier with discarded brass. Adugo never lacked customers, and her sacks were always full by the end of the day. At night, she would meet Ezinne by the river, where the mysterious woman collected the brass, performed strange rituals, and handed Adugo her payments. Adugo's trade grew bigger than anyone in Oguachukwu could have imagined. She didn't stop at her village. Soon, she started visiting neighboring villages, her bowls and basins glittering like the morning sun. Everywhere she went, villagers eagerly gathered their old clothes, shoes, and brass, waiting for her next visit. "Adugo is coming tomorrow with her colorful bowls and basins," they would say amongst each other, their excitement bubbling like a pot of soup. Everyone wanted a piece of Adugo's trade. Back in Oguachukwu, her life was a marvel. With Ezinne's payment coming in irregularly, Adugo's life began to change. She repaired her leaking hut, replacing the torn roof with zinc. Her windows were fully covered, leaving the cold wind out at night. Her once broken down hut now stood strong and proud. Her clothes were fresh and her meals were satisfying. The villagers noticed her transformation and began to talk. "Look at Adugo," they whispered. "She's no longer the poor wretched woman we knew. Maybe her business is truly blessed," another added. But while her days were filled with laughter, her nights held a darker secret. When the village slept, Adugo would quietly gather her sacks of sorted brass. Like a shadow, she would slip through the narrow paths heading toward the river. Under the moonlight, she would meet Ezinne, who always waited with her strange knowing smile. They exchanged no more than a few words, but each time Ezinne would take the brass and handed Adugo her payment. But one woman, Adugo's sharp-eyed neighbor, Nsika, grew suspicious. Every night she noticed Adugo sneaking away with her sacks. Nsika couldn't understand. Where does she go? Nsika wondered. No one in the village knew of these nightly meetings. To them, Adugo's success was as a result of simple hard work. But in the dark, by the river, something strange and unspoken was happening, and soon it would catch the attention of a watchful eye, Nsika. Determined to uncover the truth, Nsika decided that one day she would follow Adugo so as to have an insight into what was going on. One night, as curiosity gripped Nsika tightly, she wrapped herself with a thick scarf and waited by her window watching Adugo. As expected, Adugo left her hut, her heavy sacks flung over her shoulder. Moving like a silent cat, Nsika followed her, keeping a safe distance. The air was cold and the night was eerily quiet. As she sneaked behind Adugo, her heart beat loudly in her chest. But she pressed on, hiding behind trees and bushes. At a point, Nsika crouched behind the tall elephant grass, her heart pounding as she watched Adugo and Ezinne by the river. The scene before her was both strange and terrifying. Ezinne, dressed in a flowing black garment, chanted words that seemed to hang in the air like smoke. The sacks of brass Adugo had brought were opened one by one. As Ezinne held each bra aloof, murmuring strange incantations, the brass dissolved into a faint, shimmering mist, which swirled around Ezinne before disappearing into her body. Nsika gasped. She had heard tales of witches who could steal the life force of others, but never had she seen it with her own eyes. The laughter that followed, cold and bone-chilling, confirmed her worst fear. Afraid she might be discovered, Nsika carefully backed away, but as she turned to run, she stepped on a dry twig, which snapped loudly. Ezinne's head jerked towards the sound, her piercing eyes scanning the darkness. Nsika froze, her breath caught in her throat. "Who is there?" Ezinne's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Nsika didn't wait to find out what her next move would be. She turned and bolted, running as fast as her legs could carry her. The night seemed to close in around her, branches tugging on her clothes and shadows dancing at the edges of her vision. Behind her, she could hear the faint sound of Ezinne's laughter. When Nsika reached the safety of the village, she collapsed, gasping for breath. Without hesitation, she ran to the home of the chief elder and banged on his door. The elders gathered quietly, their faces grim as Nsika recounted what she had seen. "She's no ordinary woman," Nsika said, her voice trembling. "Ezinne is a witch, feeding on the life force of her people through the brass Adugo collects for her." The elders exchanged worried glances. They had heard whispers of strange happenings in the village, of people falling ill without explanation, of crops withering despite the rains. Now, the pieces began to fall into place. "We must act swiftly," the chief elder declared. "If we do nothing, the witch will destroy us all." A plan was set in motion. At dawn, the villagers would confront Adugo and demand the truth. If she refused to speak, they would summon the chief priest to uncover the secrets hidden in her heart. At sunrise, Adugo was dragged to the village square. The once proud woman now looked frail and frightened, her newfound wealth doing little to protect her from the wrath of her neighbors. "Tell us the truth, Adugo," the chief elder thundered. "Who is Ezinne? And what is she doing with the items you collect for her?" Adugo fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I was desperate," she sobbed. "Ezinne promised to make me rich if I collected the brass for her. She swore me to secrecy, saying I would go mad or die if I revealed her plans. The chief priest stepped forward, his staff glowing with spiritual energy. He began chanting ancient words, calling on the gods to protect Adugo and the villagers from Ezinne's curse. Slowly, Adugo found the strength to speak freely. She uses the brass to steal the villagers' life force, Adugo admitted. Every bra represents the strength of its owner. That is how she grows her power. The villagers gasped in fear as they were horrified. The priest declared, many had traded their old bras to Adugo, thinking nothing of it. Now they realized the price they had unknowingly paid. We must destroy Ezinne's power to free the village from her curse. That evening, the villagers, led by the chief priest, marched to the river, armed with torches and weapons. They found Ezinne waiting beneath the old baobab tree, her eyes gleaming with malice. You dare come here? She sneered. Do you know who I am? We know what you are, the chief elder replied. Your reign of terror ends tonight. Ezinne raised her arms, and the wind howled as if summoned by her fury. But the chief priest was prepared. He drove his staff into the ground, creating a barrier of light that shielded the villagers from Ezinne's dark magic. The villagers rushed forward, overpowering Ezinne and binding her to the baobab tree. She screamed and cursed them, vowing that they would never be free of her. But the villagers were resolute. With stones in hand, they carried out the ancient punishment for witches. Ezinne's cry echoed through the night until there was only silence. The curse that had plagued the village was lifted, but its effect lingered. Though the villagers were free, the curse left its mark on Adugo and Nsika. Nsika lost her sight, and Adugo's leg grew too weak to carry her. For Nsika, the night she followed Adugo came at a cost. Her eyesight, once sharp and clear, began to fade. The chief priest performed the rituals to restore her vision, but she was left with a permanent haze that dulled the world around her. The chief priest performed rituals, restoring Nsika's vision. Adugo's punishment was far greater. Her legs, once strong enough to carry her through the fields and forests, grew weak and useless. She could no longer walk without help, limping along the dusty road with nothing but a small bundle of belongings. Shunned by the villagers, Adugo became a wandering outcast. Adugo's guilt weighed heavily on her heart. She left Oguachukwu, and her wealth quickly vanished as she spent it seeking cures that never came. Wherever she went, her story followed her, a cautionary tale of greed and the dangers of trusting strangers. The village of Oguachukwu slowly returned to normal, but the story of Ezinne and Adugo was never forgotten. Parents told it to their children as a warning. Though Ezinne was gone, her final word, her curse, lingered like a dark shadow over the village. Her voice, filled with venom, had echoed in the villagers' ears as she vowed, "You may destroy me, but you will never escape my wrath. Your land will thirst, your wombs will dry, and your joy will turn to ashes." At first, the villagers celebrated her death. They believed they had triumphed over evil. But within weeks, the signs of the curse began to manifest. The river that once swam with life grew murky and foul, driving the fishes away. Crops withered in the fields despite the rain. The livestock fell ill, and the air seemed heavier, as though the very land was grieving. For Adugo, the curse was personal. Her wealth, though quickly squandered, which had brought her a level of comfort she had never known, disappeared suddenly. Now, as she wandered from village to village, begging for scraps, she realized how far she had fallen. One night, Adugo dreamt of Ezinne. The witch appeared in a haze of smoke, her once beautiful face now twisted and decayed. "You thought you could escape me," Ezinne hissed, "but your betrayal will cost you dearly." Adugo woke with a scream, her body drenched in sweat. From that day forward, she was haunted by nightmares and whispers in the dark. Her legs, already weak, became riddled with sores that refused to heal. She was no longer just an outcast. She became a living reminder of Ezinne's curse. Isika too could not escape unscathed. Her blurred vision was only the beginning. As the curse spread through the village, she began to notice a heaviness in her chest, as though a stone sat where her heart once beat freely. She became withdrawn, plagued by guilt. Though the villagers praised her bravery for uncovering Ezinne's secrets, Isika felt responsible for Adugo's downfall and the lingering curse. One day she approached the chief priest, desperate for answers. "Why does the curse persist?" she asked. "We rid the village of the witch, yet her evil still haunts us." The chief priest stroked his long white beard. "The death of Ezinne is feeding on our fear and despair. To break the curse, we must find the source of her power and destroy it completely." The elders gathered once more, and the villagers, united by their suffering, prepared for a final confrontation with the remnants of Ezinne's magic. The chief priest revealed that the baobab tree where Ezinne had been tied was the key. "Her essence is bound to that tree," he explained. "We must uproot it and burn it to ashes. Only then will her power be banished forever." But the task was easier said than done. The baobab tree was ancient and massive, its roots buried deep in the earth. When the villagers approached it, they felt an unnatural chill in the air. The ground around the tree was barren, and no birds dared to perch on its branches. As they began to dig, strange things happened. Tools broke inexplicably. Some villagers claimed to hear whispers calling their names, urging them to stop. Others were overcome with a sudden, inexplicable fear that sent them running back to the village. News of the villagers' struggle reached Adugo, who was living in a distant village. Despite her bitterness and suffering, she felt a pang of responsibility. She knew that her actions had brought Ezinne into their lives, and she decided to return to Oguachukwu to make amends. When Adugo arrived, the villagers were reluctant to accept her help, but Isika, who had always believed in second chances, convinced them to let her join the effort. Ezinne trusted Adugo, Isika said. "Perhaps she knows something we don't." Adugo approached the baobab tree, her heart pounding. As she placed her hand on the rough bark, she felt a surge of energy. Dark, cold, and familiar. Memories flooded her mind. The nights she had spent with Ezinne by the river, the promises of wealth and power, and the warnings of betrayal. "I know what we must do," Adugo whispered. Guided by Adugo's insight, the villagers discovered a hidden hollow in the baobab tree. Inside, they found a small wooden box wrapped in black cloth. The chief priest carefully unwrapped it, revealing a collection of strange objects: bones, feathers, and a lock of human hair. "This is our anchor," the priest said. "Her spirit clings to these items, feeding on their energy." The villagers gathered dry wood and built a pyre around the baobab tree. The chief priest placed the box on it, chanting prayers to the gods of the land and the river. As the flames consumed the tree and the box on the ground trembled, a deafening scream echoed through the air, and a shadowy figure rose from the fire, writhing in agony before vanishing into the sky. The villagers watched in awe and fear as the fire burnt brighter than anything they had ever seen. When it finally died down, the air felt lighter, and the river began to flow clearer once more. When the curse lifted, life slowly returned to Oguachukwu. The crops grew green and plentiful. The animals thrived, and the villagers felt a sense of peace they had not known in years. Adugo, though forgiving, chose to leave the village. She spent the rest of her days helping others, hoping to atone for her past. Nsika, though her vision never fully returned, became a respected elder, known for her wisdom and courage. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the whole part of this beautiful story, please drop a like and comment on your favorite part of the video, and do well to subscribe to my channel, Folktale by Queen Mother, so you won't miss out on our next story. Also, share the story with your friends and family. It's been a long way getting here, and I really appreciate all of you who watched the story to the end. Do have a lovely day. Thank you.